hours of my day.
But he
yeah,
stayed there,
out
and he stayed there,
Yeah.
and he stayed there, and finally they found something that was going to work
Something
a little
better
better.
for him.
It's the entire bane of my existence because our illustrious leader reminds me every day, if Ryan can sell, you can sell.
That's right.
And I tell her, I don't know how he ever got there, but it's the biggest stroke of luck. Craig, you're in luck, though, because I would say at least half the people listen to this show. They're not here for the sports. They're here for the idiocy.
Oh, well.
And so
Major pressure drop.
No.
Okay, let's take the coat off.
Now that Tommy isn't here to rail us in, we need a guiding.
Okay.
We need somebody to steady us out.
Did I ever tell you when I was bartending at Luke's back in the early 80s, and these two guys came in that we had 86th before?
Yes.
Oh, this is live, isn't it? Oh, no.
Well, so Tommy, producer Tommy, now turned engineer Tommy, he left this show in a blaze of rage, similar to your blaze of glory of retirement. But he said, I'm never coming back. And he's only come back one time to tell us about the time he killed somebody's dog while dog sitting their house.
Wow. I don't have any stories
let's be clear.
like that.
The dog passed away. He did not kill the dog.
Kill the
did his
dog.
very
He
best.
didn't save the dog.
He did not save the dog. That's a good point.
I wouldn't let him off the hook that easy.
Anyways, the point is,
dogs have clean mouths. You do a little mouth to mouth and a couple of chest compressions. You can bring those suckers back with a little effort if you care.
Clearly, he does not care.
The point is that Tommy now has come back around, and he told me the other day, he said, I miss hanging out with you idiots. So if and when we get our new studio, which I live in the world where I believe it when I see it, we are going to have, he thinks, an extra hour each week that is nothing to do with sports and everything to do with everything else. So if and when that happens, Craig Johnson, you are certainly invited back.
Okay.
And
right.
I know that you have some plans maybe for the future, too. We'll talk about it at a later date. But
staying alive is the big one.
But Craig,
outrun the Reaper is kind of what I'm all about at my age.
When you were on, and you were on the trail for all those years, the end of your career, and the very first time that I ever was on live radio, in my adult life, there's I did an appearance sort of accidentally as a child once, but was when I was walking by. He said, hey, Ryan, why don't you come in and sit down with me? And I was like, but you're working. Craig, I can't be in there while you're. No, I want you to talk on the radio. And I sat down, and I was just sweating and nervous as I could possibly have been.
What did we talk about?
I have
Do you remember?
no idea. No clue. But from that day forward, every once in a while, you would say, "Hey, come sit down with." Oh man.
It was always fun.
Oh, it made my absolute week every single time, and it was a great thrill to be on the air in general and certainly on with you, and I appreciate all those times that you let me come by and hang out with you on the trail in the mornings, and I'm happy to reciprocate that in some small fashion here this afternoon. Now, let's tell the people, a little bit. I don't want to tell, too much.
Because we don't know very much.
We don't know very much. What we know is this. You have an Airstream, and you have a now remote, moving around the world audio recorder.
Right.
And you may be, as you've been spending a lot of time on the road, that's what you and your wife love to do when you have the time, and now you have quite a bit of time.
She's still working. My wife is a high school teacher.
But now,
so
where have you been now in the last 6-8 months or whatever it's been since you have been retired?
I would say out of the 8 months, probably 80% of it was spent on the couch napping.
What's the line? My life is a continuous string of endless naps. Is that
that's correct. That's on the whiteboard, yes.
Oh, let's see. Last summer when I retired on June 12th, and Patty, my wife's last day teaching for the year, was the next day. So I picked her up at Hellgate High School, where she teaches, with the Airstream, and we headed for a little state park outside of Sisters, Oregon. Excellent. And spent, I think, 2 weeks there hiking every day. There was a little 3-mile hike around the lake, and so we would go out and hike all day and come back, and then hike around the lake, and then we went over to Yachats, Oregon, and camped on the beach over there for, I think, 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. Wow. And you could walk about 14 miles a day on the
And
beach
it
up
just
and back.
carries on like this until school starts again in the fall, and you got to return here. And now you work on motorcycles while you're.
I've got a little shop out back, and I mess with that, and
Yeah.
I've proven that that I had heard before that the only difference between a good welder, I have a couple of welders out there, the only difference between a good welder and a bad welder is an angle grinder. And it turns out that's not true.
Okay,
No, I'm a
good.
bad welder. Went to Minnesota for pheasant hunting.
Yes,
I don't hunt,
but you were there.
but I was there. My brothers
Serving.
were there hunting,
Yes.
so I went to Minnesota for pheasant hunting. We went up to Isaac Walton right after Christmas for skiing for a few days, and I don't know. I haven't had a chance to travel so much because my wife is still working now. Come this summer, we'll be able to get back on the road quite a bit. But I am taking off Sunday for Arizona for some dual sport motorcycle riding for a week with one of my brothers who is down there from Michigan because they go down to get out of the snow every year. Then I'm going to go over to Texas and spend some time in Texas and then drive back up from Texas.
Yeah, well, it will be nice when you actually get to do something on a bigger scale, Craig. I look forward to that time coming because this has obviously all been just a very
It's just
little
a
bit-
warm-up.
Just,
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
thousands of miles that you've tracked now. But now you are maybe going to take a recorder with you and maybe say a few words back to
Here's-
Western Montana for every once in a while.
Here's kind of the way this evolved. I was pretty sure I was done, and
How do you come to that conclusion?
you just get really old.
But see, there's so many people. Most people I know, even if they're in their 30s, they're dreaming of retirement.
Right.
I have no dream of retirement.
Because you don't think it'll be feasible, or do you don't think you'll ever want to?
I don't think I'll ever want to.
Okay.
I don't think I will. Maybe from the radio. Maybe I'll get tired of looking at Ryan.
Oh, you will.
But
No chance.
I don't think I'll ever get tired of writing. I think
Right.
I will write for my whole life, and I think that's why I take it as I have so much gratitude for that being a gift that I have because it is so satisfying. Will I still write sports journalism stories? I'm not sure. Maybe I'll write a book or something like that. So maybe I just
People
don't have
read
the,
for your whole life, though.
Yeah, right. Well, it's a good point.
On the other side of the spectrum, I've retired several times already.
And how old are you now?
And 39, and I can't wait for the next one,
Right.
which has got to be less than 24 months away, would be my,
Well,
my
I
hope.
did radio. I was on air for 46 years, and I just was pretty sure that I was done. And that's kind of where I was for quite a while. And when I left, there was kind of this open-ended idea that if I wanted to come back and do some work, that I was always welcome. And that was really gratifying. And I think the other part of this equation is that any number of other jobs, not all of them, but any number of other jobs that I had, I would not have gone back. And I'm not casting aspersions on the way anybody runs their operation, but this entity here is unique. And I know,
absolutely
I know.
true.
But I mean, it truly is. They're
There's no question.
having, like I said, done radio, continuously since 1973. This is a unique situation. It is familial. It is run by women, which is a very positive force in this day and age, because it's run differently when it's run by women.
No question.
No doubt.
That's one of the best parts about it.
It is, and there is so much. I don't know. There's a vibe that goes through this place that is unlike any place I worked before, and I, like I said, worked a lot of places. So anyway, I kept trying to push it out of my mind. I wasn't going to do it, but I'd be hiking up Mount Sentinel, and I'd have music on whatever player I had it on at the time and put it on shuffle, and I'd keep hearing songs. I'd say, wow, that would make a good trail trifecta. Wow, that would be a good Craigslist. Wow, I could put that with this and this with that. And I'd push it out of my mind. And then finally one day I was just like, something's telling me. Anyway,
Yeah.
so to make my long story even longer, got to talking with Robert Chase, who is the program director over at the Trail, and Becky, who is the woman in charge.
Yeah.
And talked about coming back and doing a 2-hour weekend show, which I think will probably run Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then be available on demand on our website. And it will not be a talk show because I don't know how you guys do a talk show. Just as much as a talker as I am, and I am a talker, I can't imagine filling it that way. But so it'll be primarily music. But what I think will make it different is what you were alluding to, Ryan, was I'm going to be taking a digital recorder with me. I'm going to have the ability to edit on the road. I'm going to have the ability to phone things back in, not phone, but get audio back to the station. And I'm also going to just keep stockpiling audio from these various trips, whether it's up on top of a mountain, about ready to throw up because of the steepness of the hike.
Yes.
And then you talk to some little kid who's jumping around and saying, now what?
Right.
Or sitting at a picnic table at, Joshua Tree National Park and doing a show with the sound of coyotes or whatever the hell they have in the background in Joshua Tree.
I think it's coyotes.
It's coyotes,
yes.
probably.
I'm pretty
coyotes,
sure, yeah.
But they'll be California coyotes, so they do sound different than the ones on Sentinel. So
that's a very good point. A higher pitch in those Cali coyotes.
Part of it is, and I don't want it to be a big talk thing, but I do want it to kind of be, I guess, a take on what's going on in the country. And I don't mean a political take. I mean,
just all the stuff that's out there.
All the stuff that's out there. And I just feel like people are so stressed these days.
We were just talking about this.
Were you?
Right before the show, yes.
Yeah, people are...
Why is everyone so neurotic all of a sudden? I don't understand.
Well, there's a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
But, they are. And I guess I would like to present 2 hours every week where you just get a feeling for and not all, sunshine and rainbows, but get a feeling for what's great.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that used to make us feel so good that we can't seem to draw up on? There's this well of great things that we've all experienced in our lives. Why is it that we have such a hard time tapping into that? I don't know. Maybe just some reminders of the good people out there.
Well, tell you what, we are very excited when this comes to be, and we don't have a time frame that we're going to set on this.
Probably April.
Okay. We do have a time frame,
and
April.
We will debut it with a podcast, like I've been trying to talk Craig into for years.
But excited to have you continuing on with us, which you've been with us no matter what, but now in a maybe more regular sort of occurrence, at least in terms of the audio coming through, and we'll live vicariously through the goodness that you find for us out there in the wider world as you go. But we're excited for it, and it's going to be fun to listen to.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to stop in and talk about it. I hadn't planned on that, but if I could just say one more thing.
Yes.
If any of your sponsors are completely unhappy with what you guys are delivering, we are looking for sponsors for this new show coming up.
So you're volunteering to take my sales list. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, no, I don't sell.
Ryan can do it. You can
do it, too.
It's a very low bar. Craig, you're a legend, man. Thanks so much for being here and hanging out with us impromptu like you did. Always the best. Thanks for coming by.
Glad I dressed up. Got a clean black T-shirt on and
that's right.
Baseball cap. Good to go. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Craig. Stutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Our friend Craig coming in studio with us. We appreciate that, man. That is fun right there, Colter. You know what I'm saying? You get a guy like that. Yeah, you could tell very nervous, right? Seemed very nervous.
So petrified.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. I think that part of human nature, especially in modern society, is that if you live around the same place for most of your life, a lot of people, I think, put it in the back of their minds that they somehow didn't spread their wings or explore. And I think there is a certain element of truth to that. And I think that spreading your wings and exploring is great for people's growth. But also, if you live in a community, especially a great community like this, like Missoula, or even in just Montana in general, I think that then you have a lot of chances for your life to come full circle. I was talking to Blaine Taylor on the telephone last night. Blaine Taylor, former University of Montana men's basketball coach.
Yeah.
And now I'm on the radio with Craig Johnson. If you would have told me that would have been what I would have been doing when I was like 12 years old, I would have just said, Mama, we made it. That is as good as it gets, you know?
Right.
And it is as good as it gets, and it makes me feel so cool.
Yes.
Like, I told the story on the show before, but I'll tell it again because it's pertinent now with Craig walking out of the studio. When Craig was at, I don't even know if we're supposed to say other radio stations that aren't affiliated with ours.
When he was elsewhere.
When he was at he was DJ at the one of classic rock stations.
Yeah, Craig and Al every morning.
I mean, everybody knows
it,
so we can say it. We can.
No, No, well, I mean,
I
there's
used to
nothing
call.
not to say.
I used to call that show every single day and request Led Zeppelin while I was organizing my baseball cards. And I'm sure they got so annoyed with me because I called in every day. New Zeppelin track. Play me some Zeppelin. Every day.
Kid, okay, we'll get you some Zeppelin.
And then 20 years later,
Here we are.
there I am. Stopped into Craig Johnson's cubicle asking for a piece of homemade bread.
Yeah, right. It's too good. Well, we appreciate Craig coming through. We'll take a break. Kind of blew through it here on the first one. We will now get into some basketball this evening. The Montana Grizzlies men's team on the road against Northern Arizona. We will hear from Travis DeCure talking about the road swing, starting with Montana State last Saturday and now going down south right after this.
Seafood lovers, it's time to get cracking at the Montana Club's annual Lobster Fest. Feast on one of our 19 mouth-watering lobster dishes, live Maine lobster, succulent lobster tail, and tantalizing one-of-a-kind lobster specialties. 3 big days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, March 5th through the 7th. It only happens once a year. Don't miss it. See the menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club's Lobster Fest on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Whether you're shopping for your first home, need something bigger, or downsizing for retirement, you need a mortgage. Talk to the experts at Farmers State Bank or start the application process online at farmersebank.com. Our mortgage lenders have many options to help you into the home of your dreams, from conventional to in-house, VA, rural development, and more. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call. 406-640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast, episode 7 is out now, featuring a University of Montana legend, Larry Krystowiak. Coulter, Coach Krystowiak had one of the great playing careers at the University of Montana and then returned to his alma mater to be the head coach for 2 seasons in 04 and 05 and 05 and 06, went to the NC2A tournament both seasons, and in his second and final season at UM, they became the last team in the Big Sky Conference to win an NC2A tournament game.
We call this the Grizz Greats, and he is one of the greatest Grizz of them all. Larry Krystowiak, an in-state product who went to high school in Missoula, was the only 3-time MVP in the history of Montana basketball and the only player to ever score 2,000 points and grab 1,000 rebounds in his decorated career. A phenomenal career for Larry Krystowiak that continues to this day at the University of Utah.
Just search Grizz Greats wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and enjoy the entire series of Grizz Greats, available thanks to Blackfoot Communications, Stockman's Bar, and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate. Hey guys, Ryan Tutel and Colton Nuanez from Tutel and Nuanez. Hey, we're not just here for your entertainment, we're also a bastion of knowledge and information as well.
If you want to know what's going on in the world of youth sports, from sign-ups to camps and other activities, tune into Tutel and Nuanez on Tuesday.
That's right, interviews and information with people who know to make sure that your kids get all the best in sports that Missoula has to offer this Tuesday on Tutel and Nuanez.
The Youth Sports segment is brought to you by Pepsi Cola of Missoula, proudly supporting youth athletics in the Garden City.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez. Here are some sports news for you. A pivotal weekend for Montana's Big Sky Conference schools commences tonight with key matchups across the West for Montana and Montana State's men's and women's basketball teams. The biggest game of the evening is tipping tonight at 7 o'clock in Dahlberg Arena in Missoula as the Lady Grizz are looking to snap a 2-game losing streak against Northern Arizona. They're the surprise team of the Big Sky this season. NAU, under the direction of Havre native Lori Payne, enters Thursday's matchup with a 12-5 record in league play and sit alone in second place in the conference standings with 4 games left to play. Montana is at 9-7, tied with Southern Utah for 5th place. The top 5 finishers of the regular season earn a first-round bye at the Big Sky tournament in Boise the second week of March.
The University of Montana men will look to stay atop the Big Sky standings with a pivotal game in Flagstaff, Arizona against NAU. The Grizz dispatched the Lumberjacks in Missoula 61 days ago. Montana is 13-3 in league play overall, a game ahead of Eastern Washington and Northern Colorado for first place. Under first-year head coach Shane Burkar, the Lumberjacks are 9-7 in league and sit alone in fourth place.
Montana State's women sewed up the league title last weekend with a win over the Lady Grizz. The Bobcats host Sac State. The MSU men, meanwhile, are at Sacramento State trying to snap a 2-game losing streak. They are 8-8.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
The Montana Grizzlies take their 13-3 record on the road to Northern Arizona tonight. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you on this very fine Thursday evening. Hope you are well. Thanks for being with us. Again, our thanks to Craig Johnson for coming in and hanging out with us kind of impromptu in the first segment. We appreciate that. So we're going to rearrange some things. We are going to hear from Charles Burns, who is a freshman at Northern Arizona University, but is from Western Montana, grew up in Lolo, went to Loyola in Missoula to play basketball, and is now on the NAU men's team. We'll hear from him here in just about 5 minutes. And then we will get into Coach DeCure and the Grizzlies side of this thing in a minute. But Colter, it's been a pretty remarkable year for NAU. They have, Coach Murphy moving on. They have a first-year head coach who's only been on the staff. This is his second year. His first year as an assistant coach. Now he's a head coach. Coming from the high school ranks, you got a bunch of kids who are talented, but you don't know exactly what it's going to look like. And they were picked 9th in the preseason, now alone in 4th, and the last team above 500 as it stands right now in the entire Big Sky Conference. So this NAU team, we've talked about them a little bit, but again, I mean, this is a real test for Montana. And with 4 games left to play, they've been on a great winning streak. How many in a row has the men's team won right now for the Grizzlies?
6 in a row.
So 6 in a row. So nobody, we've talked about this before. It's not really like you quote unquote want to lose a game, but there are moments where Coach DeCure does a great job of capitalizing on sort of the next stretch after Montana loses, it seems like. And so if there was a game that Montana was going to lose going into the tournament against a good team, this might be one of those sorts of games, right?
It might, but also I think we've been talking around in circles about the league in terms of trying to balance how even it is and also how bad it is. It's not a good league this year.
Mm-hmm.
Being even and competitive does not mean good.
Right. No.
Every coach in the league will tell you need at least 2 and a lot of years 3 all-conference players to win the league. I think there's some guys in the league that are going to get all-conference this year that aren't all-conference players.
Yeah.
And there's also several first to second team, top 10 guys that are solo dolo at their school. They're the only ones. Like Harold Frey, he's got Montana State in the top half, but if they had one extra guy, where would they be in this league, right? If Trayvon Allen had one extra guy, would they be in the basement? I don't know. Jarek Harding, I mean, you want to believe Cody John could be that guy, but Harding's been hurt. John hasn't risen to the occasion, so there's just a lot of different missing pieces here. I understand the premise of if you're going to have a dip, you want to have it before the tournament, not in the tournament. You don't ever want to have that game where you just don't have your legs or you don't have your energy or you just aren't focused. You don't ever want that to happen on a neutral court because then you're out. And it's a one-bid league. And all of a sudden, especially if you're a program like Montana, your singular goal has been eliminated.
Yes.
So I understand that premise. On the flip side, I think this Grizz team is solid, not bad, in a bad league. So the more wins they can stack, the better. So on one hand, if they were to lose tonight, I don't think it'd be the end of the world. On the other hand, if I'm this team, I want to start embracing the mentality that we can't be touched.
Yeah, right.
If they just win 11 or 12, I guess if they were to win out, they would be on a 13-game winning streak going to the NCAA tournament. I don't think that's a bad thing, especially considering the youth that's on this roster.
Well, it's certainly not a bad thing no matter what if you're going to the tournament, but I think to me the question is not so much about where are you at if you go to the NCAA tournament, it's where are you at when you get to Boise and how do you roll through the 3 games that you're going to have to play in order to get to that place that you want to be. But NAU, just briefly, Coulter, again, this team has been better than a lot of people thought. I think they're the team that is probably the biggest surprise of the year in terms of what they've done relative to expectations. And also, when the Grizzlies beat NAU earlier this year, which was, what was it, 61 days ago that these
61
two teams played?
days ago, yep.
So huge changes to all this, but also NAU's best player, probably Brooks DeBishop, did not play in that basketball game against the Grizzlies. So much like Portland State, who was missing their best player or maybe most important player anyway, not their best player, Holland Woods would be that, but when they played the Grizzlies, then when they got him back, they beat Montana at home. Could we see something like that again with Brooks DeBishop playing in this game tonight for NAU?
Well, Brooks DeBishop certainly changes what NAU does, because Brooks DeBishop, he's the only big guy in the league that can score on the block, is a good rebounder both offensively and defensively, who can also pass. Every other big guy in the league who can do the first couple things that I mentioned, they don't pass. Josh Patton at Sac State doesn't pass. Jabril Bello at Montana State, they don't pass. They literally don't pass. They get the ball in the post, and they go to work. Brooks DeBishop, I think, is 7th in league play in assists. He's by far the leading passing big guy in the league. He's averaging 3.5 assists a game. That leads to so much of what NAU does in the half court, specifically open shots for Luke Adalovich, who's one of the best shooters in the league. Cam Shelton can create off the dribble, but he also can shoot it. So NAU in the half court, their spacing is essential. And Bernie Audrey, his ability to add a three-point shot, now all of a sudden you have multiple guys that can attack you. They have some of the best balance in the league, and DeBishop is definitely the centerpiece because he's the rare new school big guy who plays old school. You can run the wheel around him. He can kick out of the post. He creates open shots for other guys, which is becoming more and more rare.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. I think we got an interview to get to. Let's do it. Well, we go now to the Rankage Brothers RV phone line, and we welcome in a freshman basketball player, a guard at Northern Arizona University, but from Lolo, Montana, by way of Loyola Sacred Heart. Charles Burns joining us. Charles, how you doing, man?
Good. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, we're happy to have you on here, and it's interesting and timely as the Montana schools are doing the NAU swing this week on Thursday and Saturday, respectively, going to be there in Flagstaff. But you were in Missoula and in Loyola, at Loyola and Lolo as well. How did you get to NAU? I know your dad played there, so it was on your radar, but ultimately what got you down into Arizona?
Yeah, well, NAU was the first school I applied for. Right when I, senior year, I was starting to apply for schools. That was my first choice. It's always been, a dream of mine, just, get down to NAU and, at least just, be a part of the school. Basketball has been a big passion of mine. So, I've watched NAU for years, as you said. My dad played there, so we've been living in Montana, but we've been big NAU fans. So, got in contact with Coach Murphy. And, he said, there wasn't really a spot for me, and but, they'd love to have us down as, more of as a manager than anything. And so, I gladly accepted that. But when I heard, Burkhart took the job, he gave me a phone call, and he asked me, he's like, we want guys who want to be here, want to be at Flagstaff, want to be at Lumberjack, and we think that's you. So then he offered me the walk-on spot, and, Of course, I accepted that. So that's how I ended up here.
And so when you start, when you show up and you have the coaching change, and now it's Coach Burkhart, and he's giving you even more of a shot, to be on the team and doing that. What's it been like to just be, working through your freshman year there and being a part of the team?
Right. It's a completely new ball game. From high school basketball at Loyola to college basketball here in Flagstaff, and Burkhart's been handling that transition incredibly well. And, what I've been talking to the seniors, they said that, he's been, handling that really well. And I think, he's a great coach. So, he's taught me a ton of stuff, not just with NAU basketball, but also, life stuff, so the important stuff as well. So.
And, it's so interesting because with the coaching change and everything like that, I think people, weren't sure what to make out of Northern Arizona. But here we are with 4 games left, and the Lumberjacks are 4th in the conference, sitting there in a bye position in solo place at 9-8. Only 3 games left for you guys. Yeah. So, how has it gone so well? What's gone right this season for NAU?
Well, right from the jump, Burkhart, said how much he believed in this team. And I remember the standings, came out for the Big Sky, I think it was probably right around October or so, or whatever it was. And, we were listed at 9th. And, he just could not believe it. He's like, this is not us. Like, he knew. He had so much confidence in us. And he's been saying that since day one, And it's not just, lip work or, him just talking. He truly believes it, and so do we. So that's what landed us here today.
Charles Burns joining us. He's a guard for Northern Arizona's men's basketball team. He's a freshman there at NAU and from Lolo by way of Loyola. And, you play 4 years for Eddie Stack at Loyola. There's some high-level basketball teams that you were a part of for the Rams that were there. But like you said, it's a whole different deal when you move from the high school game up to the Division I college game. What do you think got you set up the best from a basketball standpoint playing at Lolo, and then what's been sort of the biggest jump to you?
Well, like you said, Coach Eddie Stack, he's brought me to where I am today. He's taught me so much with the game, and as long as my dad too, because he knew what that jump would be like going from high school basketball. He played at Florence, and going from high school basketball to the college level, at the same school. So he's taught me so much with what to expect with that transition, and he's just got me mentally prepared, obviously, with physically prepared as well. So,
and that's got to be a kick for him, right? Your dad, Brian. To think that you're doing essentially the same thing, going from Western Montana to NAU to play college ball. That's a thrill, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Going from my rival school being a Ram, he went from Florence to NAU. So, that was a big help for me, because not a lot of kids, get this opportunity to play at, at a Division I. So, especially from Montana, it's just tough, getting out of Montana for that sake. But, he's prepared me for what is to come.
So, Charles, outside of school and basketball and all that, best thing about Flagstaff is what?
The people. It's no question. The people here are just awesome. They're so helpful and just kind. I've just met so many people this year just because, they're outgoing. People just talk to you just to talk, which is not, it's not much different from Montana. People are friendly in Montana. They'll talk to you. So
right.
That's the biggest thing, I think, that I've noticed being here.
Well, Charles, we certainly appreciate, again, NAU hosting Montana on Thursday and then Montana State on Saturday. So a big week of basketball to finish out the Big Sky Conference schedule, just about finish it out for NAU. One more game after those two. So, Charles, we certainly appreciate it, and best of luck to you both this year and going forward at NAU, all right?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Charles Burns joining us, former Loyola Sacred Heart Ram and now an NAU Lumberjack, and NAU hosting the Grizzlies tonight, 7 o'clock in Flagstaff. Speaking of, we will hear from Travis DeCure, talk about this game a little bit more right after this. In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
College basketball madness is happening again, and there's only one place in town to catch all the games, the Desperado. Catch every buzzer beater, every Cinderella story, and every upset on the Despo's 32 TVs, while getting your fill of the best hot wings Missoula has to offer, of course. Bracket busted? The Despo's got you covered there too, with cold drinks by the pint or pitcher. The Despo is your headquarters for NCAA basketball, NHL, and NASCAR too. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell, across from the Y.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey guys, Ryan Tutel and Colton Nuanez from Tutel and Nuanez. Hey, we're not just here for your entertainment, we're also a bastion of knowledge and information as well.
If you want to know what's going on in the world of youth sports, from sign-ups to camps and other activities, tune into Tutel Nuanez on Tuesday.
That's right, interviews and information with people who know to make sure that your kids get all the best in sports that Missoula has to offer this Tuesday on Tutel Nuanez.
The youth sports segment is brought to you by Pepsi Cola of Missoula, proudly supporting youth athletics in the Garden City.
Colter people look at the calendar, may think about college basketball, March Madness, various things going on in the professional world, but this is an unbelievable time of year for high school sports.
In February, the competition really ratchets up in high school sports. We're headed toward the state tournaments of both basketball and wrestling, and we'll cover it all at Tutel Nuanez, 4 to 6 p.m. every single weekday on 102.9 ESPN.
That's right, covering what matters in the state of Montana. Montana's #1 sports talk radio show, Tutel Nuanez.
New Medicare cards are here, but as always, there are simple ways to protect yourself from fraud. Never give out your Medicare, Social Security, or bank number over the phone. Medicare will never call to sell you something. To detect any problems, always read your Medicare Summary Notice or Medicare Advantage EOB to make sure those are services you received. Report suspicious activity to Montana SMP at 800-551-3191. This project is supported by a grant from the U.S. Administration for Community Living.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Montana, Northern Arizona tonight. The men in Flagstaff, the women in Missoula. Montana State, Sacramento State tonight. The men in Sacramento, the women in Bozeman. But right now we focus on the Grizzly men and the Northern Arizona game in Flagstaff against the Lumberjacks. And this is #1 versus #4 in the Big Sky Conference as it stands right now. And Colter, let's hear a little bit from Travis DeCure. It is, by the way, Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, at Gus Tutel, at 102.9 ESPN, and at Skyline Sports MT on Twitter. If you are interested in the social medias, we have some fun out there with you all, so you can go check that out. Colter also should mention this just, since we're here. Mildenberger Motors in Hamilton, family owned for 65 years. Best prices on new and used cars and trucks only at Mildenberger Motors. You asked Travis DeCure about the road swings, 3 road games in a row now for the Grizzlies, dating back to last Saturday where they played and won at Montana State, and now they are on the road at Northern Arizona and then at Sacramento State. And the question is just, how do you kind of get going on the road and navigate this 3-game stretch where you got to play away from Dahlberg Arena?
Yeah, I think these guys have done a good job of staying focused one game at a time. I think the biggest thing for us is just understanding that we're both better than we were the last time we played NAU, same thing with Sac State, and we're going to need to play better than we played at home if we think we'll get out here with wins.
NAU specifically, they've turned the corner big time in their first year under Coach Burkhardt. So, what have been the biggest differences you've seen in that team?
Multiple scores. They've got 4 guys in double figures. Any guy can have a big game, which makes them very difficult to defend. They shoot the ball well. And I think it's a group that, when you lose a head coach and you lose some good players, the guys that kind of hang around for, what's next typically come together, and I think they're very cohesive.
They certainly are very cohesive, and I guess that's a key. Anytime you're trying to win basketball games, but especially when you're on the road and trying to, do a little bit of us against the world, or what might be in some cases us against nobody. Like you get these cavernous buildings. NAU, I'm not talking about how many people they draw, but the building that they're playing in, it's hollow in that thing, man. You got to kind of bring your own juice to the floor.
Yeah, NAU is only averaging 546 fans per home game. That's in a 10,000-seat football arena.
Right.
So cavernous is one way to say it. DeCure was referring to the coming together not only of his team but of Northern Arizona as well. I think that's the interesting part about low major college basketball is that it is so easy to transfer now. You really can just leave on your own accord, especially with the transfer portal. It used to be up to the coach to give you a release. Now you can go to the coach and say, "Coach, I'm putting my name in the portal. Give me my release."
Yeah.
And so
if you have an allegiance to a coach when a coach is either fired or moves on. And let's be clear, Jack Murphy was not fired at Northern Arizona. He moved on to coach at the University of Arizona.
Right.
But I think he knew his time was wearing thin, so he exited before he had a chance to get fired. Smart career move. He's much in the same vein as a Brian Fish at Montana State, where Jack Murphy's made to coach as an assistant in the Power 5. That's what he is. He's a recruiter. He's not an in-game manager. He's not a personality guru. He's a guy that's going to go get you a bunch of good players. That's what he did at NAU. He could just never get them to play together.
Yeah,
he had more guys quitting the team at semester than any other program in the league. More guys transferred in the offseason, more new guys. He brought in a bunch of talented new guys all the time. But that's what you see here. They had Ted McCree left the program midway through this year. They had a bunch of guys leave in the offseason last year. The Johnson kid, he ended up grad transferring to Wake Forest. And so the guys, now all of a sudden, you don't have this overflow of too many good players that don't have any way to fit together with chemistry. Now, the guys that stayed are the guys that probably like NAU, like Flagstaff, and like each other. And then you give them a new voice in Shane Burkar, and now they're playing together. And honestly, the core of Cam Shelton, Brooks DeBishop, Bernie Andre, and Luka Dolovich, and Cameron Satterwhite is their fifth. That's a good core. I mean, it's a good core, especially in this specific league, because there isn't a bunch of great teams.
Right.
Like when you say, okay, NAU was picked 9th and they're sitting in 4th, they're the biggest surprise in the league. Broadly, that's true. But to me, if you were to rank the rosters in terms of the talent that they have, I honestly think that the league is almost chalk. The only two exceptions really are NAU being maybe a spot higher than you think, and Montana State being in the mix. Because if you rank the rosters in terms of talent, I think it goes Montana, who's in first, Eastern Washington and Northern Colorado, who are tied for second, and then I think Portland State is 4th, and they're actually in 5th place. And I think NAU is 5th, and they're actually in 4th place. And then I think Montana State, I don't know if Montana State's actually more talented than Southern Utah, or I mean, even they're more talented than Sac State, and they're definitely more talented than Idaho State and Idaho. Are they more talented than the Weber? No, I don't think so. So it's interesting to break it down like that. But the point is that Burkar has done a good job there in terms of getting the guys who stayed to play together, and now they're playing a little bit better. But, I mean, as Travis DeCuire told us when he was in here last week before the Cat Grizz game, he said, in terms of jobs where you have advantages and disadvantages, every job in the Big Sky has advantages and disadvantages. But he said he thought that the best jobs in the league were Montana and Weber because of their outstanding tradition,
right?
Portland State because of their recruiting base and their new arena, and Northern Arizona. It wasn't Eastern Washington or Sac State or Southern Utah that he mentioned. It was Northern Arizona. Well, it's because they've had success. They do have a little bit of tradition.
And they're proximate, too, right? I mean, they're in a place where you are...
Well, sort of, right? David and I were talking about this off air. They are in a place where you're by big metropolitan areas, but it's still really hard to get there. Like, you can't fly into Flagstaff, really. So even if you're 2 hours from Phoenix and 3 hours from Vegas, you're driving, and it's through a canyon. So it's interesting because they do have a fertile recruiting base at their quote-unquote doorstep,
right?
But not really.
I mean, I understand what you're saying because they're up on the plateau and they're, everything like that. But, I would expect that you would drive if it's 2 to 3 hours away, just in general. Unless you get the commuter plane or something like that.
Right,
if you're, that's just what you're going to do. That's how. Not so much for the recruiting side of it, but if you're talking about, what do we talk about Eastern Washington? Why do so many kids from? How are they able to get some of the talent that they're able to get there where it doesn't necessarily match up at times with what you think of when you think of Cheney, Washington, or what the school is and that sort of thing? The reason, there's multiple reasons. We talked about the academic side of some of this stuff, but also they are in Washington. They're the number 3 institution in terms of size and athletics in the state of Washington behind Washington and Washington State.
And in recent years, in terms of college basketball, in terms of chances to get to the tournament, you could actually argue that Eastern Washington has as good, if not a better chance than Washington State, just because of certain circumstances.
Sure, totally. And so, but in any case, if you're the number, I don't know if they're number 3 technically or whatever in the state of Arizona, but after Arizona State and Arizona, quote unquote, have their pick, then, you're there as sort of an in-state institution, and also the Vegas thing. Like that does matter. There's good basketball being played in Las Vegas at the high school levels, and it's a major metropolitan city at this point. And so those are some of the things that are advantages, though, as you said, I mean, there's plenty of weirdness about the walk-up Sky Dome. And
have you ever been to Flagstaff?
No, yes, I've been to Flagstaff. I've never been to Northern Arizona's campus.
So describe Flagstaff for people that haven't been there.
I mean, it's not what you think of when you think of Arizona. I mean, we can start there.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a high mountain town.
What is it more like? It's like Montana, right?
Yeah.
I describe my family's from Sedona, Arizona.
Yeah.
That's where my parents are from. Sedona is the Red Rocks. When you drive up the canyon, you got to drive up the hill from Phoenix, and you're gaining elevation. Mm-hmm. Sedona is the beautiful, epic Red Rocks that's like Mount Zion or like Zion National Park, except for even more accentuated in terms of how specific the features are.
Right.
It's an epically beautiful place. I mean, it's almost like your eyes are deceiving you when you're there because you're in the high mountain desert, 6,000 feet, and these Red Rocks, they look just like what their names are, and it's bizarre to see. But then you keep driving up the hill, and then you get to the heavily wooded area in Flagstaff. Flagstaff to me is like the way I've always described it to people is it's Missoula combined with like a heavily wooded maybe Idaho town.
Yeah.
That has where everybody's been baptized by the Eagles. It's like the end of Route. It's like the end of Route 66, right?
Okay, yes,
it is. It's like the end of Route 66. If you would have, Craig Johnson would have led the show with us today, right?
Yeah.
And Craig's from the Midwest.
Yeah.
I thought that was just jaw dropping when he told me that, because if you would have made me guess where Craig Johnson was from, I would have said Northern Arizona.
Yeah. Right.
That's what Northern Arizona people are like. Very wise and intellectual, but also a little bit of an edge. They like to ride their motorcycles.
The rural Southwest deal of being in the desert, the high desert, living off the grid, you know, all that kind of stuff, and not sitting here talking about just like crazy people who are chasing UFOs in Roswell, but there is a lot of the culture of that sort of world is unique. It's just unique.
People has always talked about keep Missoula weird.
Yeah.
Flagstaff will never not be weird.
Yeah.
Flagstaff is one of the weirdest places. And when you're talking about like guys like you and I,
let's go.
Yeah. But when you're talking about 18-year-olds, I don't really know. Like if you're from Vegas, do you really want to move to the middle of the woods where it's 6,900 feet above sea level and play in a football arena? David just sent another great point across. The one thing that sometimes we forget, too, is that there's Arizona and there's Arizona State, but then there's also Grand Canyon, which is an enormous university who has just exploded onto the scene. And when you look at
endless amounts of money,
I mean, Grand Canyon is in the city.
Brand new basketball arena as well.
Like 10 new sporting complexes
and their basketball arena is insane.
Yeah.
What they've done with marketing. I mean, if you are reconciling yourself as a mid-major marketing program to say, kids just aren't going to come out to games anymore, you're wrong. Look at what Grand Canyon's done. Obviously, they have the population base to work with, but they were a non-existent program that now has, I mean, they have thousands of students going to games, and they're partying under the lights. Everybody's waving the shirt, and they got the balloons that you bang together. I mean, they also have a former NBA player and a Phoenix Suns legend in Dan Marley as their head coach. But still, but David made a great point. That impacts NAU as well.
No, I mean, it certainly does. And that's, it's – I got many thoughts. I'll leave them at this point. But you're right.
I think that I've talked about this with people in Bozeman a lot too. Missoula remains a very funky and very cool town. It's appealing to people of all ages that live here. I think that people can be free and they can have fun, whether they're 20 or 60 in Missoula. I think that's why it continues to grow, and all of a sudden, even after a little bit of a lapse, it's now starting to thrive again. But I think when you're talking about places like Boulder, Colorado, or even Fort Collins, Colorado, Flagstaff, Arizona, Bozeman, Montana, those places seem just awesome to guys in their 30s. Do they actually seem cool to 17-year-olds, though?
Right. Like, the wood-burning fireplace is cool, but, is that the selling
when I'm
point?
selling you Bozeman, Montana, when you're a 17-year-old from Seattle, do you actually care about mountain biking and fly fishing yet? I don't really know if you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know that I don't know. I'm sorry, people. I'm just gonna say, like, I know where I live. Okay, I'm from here. Okay, I hate fishing so very much, and I God bless all the fishermen and the fisherwomen
Fishing
out
is
there.
The absolute worst.
See, we finally found something that we all three agree on.
It's just, no. The answer is no. I don't want to go to Bozeman or Missoula and fly fish. Thank you.
But then some people,
sure, I'll go sit on your boat and watch you do it.
Totally.
You know, I'll play with the fish as it's in the Yeti.
Totally. But I guess what I'm getting at is that if you're going to, like, right now, Montana State football, they're both recruiting kids that do fit into all the elements of the communities because of where they're recruiting from.
Right.
But when you just broadly say, well, NAU should be able to get it rolling in a whole bunch of sports because they're really close to Vegas and Phoenix, I just don't really know how many young people from Vegas or Phoenix care about anything that Flagstaff has to offer.
Well, and again, a lot of times,
like I interviewed Henry Noose from Kalispell yesterday. He's coming to play DN for the Grizz. He told me, man, number one thing I was sold on Missoula is I can't wait to fish the Blackfoot.
Right.
But he's from Kalispell.
Sure. And he's obviously insane because he loves to fish. But all I'm saying, when you talk about proximity, is there is a certain, first of all, it's not proximity just because you're close, like in terms of miles.
You just have more people to look at.
I mean, you're talking about 8 million people between these two major. I mean, Phoenix is the number 5
it's the
city
fifth largest city in America. Right, totally.
You know, so you just, the numbers are just so large that like 97% of the kids are probably all going to be like Flagstaff. Pff, no thanks. But 3% of the kids is still 1,000 kids or whatever.
Totally,
you know?
well, totally. And to make the point come full circle, if you can get kids from Las Vegas to move to Cedar City, Utah, you can get them to move anywhere.
Right.
And Southern Utah has all sorts of dudes from Vegas for both football and basketball.
One quick other piece of sound we just want to play for you, but Brooks DeBishop will be playing in this game. He did not play in the game in Missoula for Northern Arizona. He's a 6'9" monster, a big kid. He's averaging 13, 14 points a game, but he is a serious interior guy in the Big Sky Conference, and one that is going that they're going to play through. And so the question to Coach Shakir is just how different is NAU when he's on the floor?
They're a different team. We prepared for them to have him. We didn't know he wasn't playing until game time, and so we prepared for a team that had a center, and all of a sudden we played against 5 perimeter players. So we kind of had to change up what we had spent time practicing on the fly. And so that was very difficult. So hopefully the preparation we put in to playing them the first time will come to fruition for this one.
So there you go. I mean, Shakir talked about that. I mean, we already prepared for this, and then we didn't see it. So we'll see. But you also can prepare as much as you want, but until it's real, it's not real. And they've played against some bigs this season, but again, there's not a ton of really good true big men in the Big Sky Conference, and Brooks DeBishop is one of those guys, and so we'll see how many problems he's able to cause guys like Jared Samuelson, Mac Anderson on the block. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead. We'll spend some time with the Montana State games. We'll get into the Lady Grizz game a little bit tonight, and who knows, maybe even we'll get into Tom Brady, because who doesn't want to know where Tom Brady's going to go? Get into all that. Hour number 2 straight ahead. Hey, the Polaris New Year's sales event is on, and now is the time to find your perfect ride at Kurtz Polaris. Financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months and savings of up to $3,500. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and on Highway 83 in Sealy. The mountains are full of snow, and Kurtz has all the best machines, apparel, and accessories to take full advantage of the season. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. The most fun you can have in snow. Kurtz Polaris. Winter awaits.
Seafood lovers, it's time to get cracking at the Montana Club's annual Lobster Fest. Feast on one of our 19 mouth-watering lobster dishes, live Maine lobster, succulent lobster tail, and tantalizing one-of-a-kind lobster specialties. 3 big days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, March 5th through the 7th. It only happens once a year. Don't miss it. See the menu at montanaclub.com. The Montana Club's Lobster Fest on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Alignment and Brakes and Shocks and Wheels and Tires. Some tire places don't offer all that, but we do to help keep you safe. It's our Les Schwab Founders Celebration. Get $50 off an alignment. That's nearly half off regular price when you purchase 4 Reputation or Open Range AT tires all month long. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
Hey, Gus, you ever heard of Magic Johnson?
Rings a bell.
One of the greatest basketball superstars of all time played for a man named Judd Heathcote at Michigan State. And guess what? Judd Heathcote started his career at the University of Montana.
Coulter, did you know that 2 former University of Montana head coaches have been head coaches in the NBA and 1 on Team USA?
Isn't that amazing?
And that's why we've created Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcast. Just search Grizz Greats.
It's a phenomenal and historic podcast series proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
Coulter, gracious mercy, and thank the heavens, it is time once again for the NC2A men's basketball tournament. It is here, and you and I are back again with the Tutel and Nuanez Bracket Challenge.
We hook people up all over Missoula all the time, but this will be an outstanding contest with entries from all over and your chance to win a variety of great prizes, including a $250 tab at Paradise Falls or $250 worth of equipment from Aspen Sound.
That's right. We got great prize packages for first, second, and third place. Selection Sunday is March 15th, and then you got to get your entries in between then and the start of the tournament on Thursday, the morning of the 19th. Coulter, I'm floating with anticipation and excitement, and of course, you can compare your brackets to Coulter's and mine and try and beat the dopes on the radio. Won't that be satisfying?
More than $1,000 worth of gifts we'll be giving to you, so stay tuned to Tutel and Nuanez 4 to 6 p.m. each weekday for details on the ESPN Missoula Bracket Challenge, brought to you in part by Paradise Falls and Aspen Sound.
If you are hurt or disabled, you may be entitled to benefits from an insurance company or Social Security. I'm Chris Helmer, an attorney at Clark Fork Law Offices. Our Missoula firm specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. There are many unknowns when injured or disabled. The other side is fighting hard. You should too. Call Clark Fork Law at 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Coulter Nuanez. Here's some sports news for you. A pivotal weekend for Montana's Big Sky Conference schools commences tonight with key matchups across the West for Montana and Montana State's men's and women's teams. The biggest game of the evening will tip at 7 o'clock tonight in Dahlberg Arena in Missoula. The Lady Grizz looking to snap a 2-game losing streak against Northern Arizona, who's the surprise team of the year in the Big Sky Conference. Under the direction of Havre native Lori Payne, NAU enters Thursday's matchup with a 12-5 record in league play and sit alone in second place in the conference standings with 4 games to go. Montana sits at 9-7 and tied with Southern Utah for 5th place. The top 5 finishers in the regular season standings earn first-round byes to the Big Sky Tournament in Boise, Idaho in the second week of March.
The UM men will look to stay atop the Big Sky standings with a pivotal game in Flagstaff, Arizona against NAU. The Grizz dispatched the Lumberjacks 79-71 in Missoula 61 days ago. Montana is 13-3 in league play, a game ahead of Eastern Washington and Northern Colorado for first place. And under first-year head coach Shane Burkar, the Lumberjacks are 9-7, alone in 4th place.
Montana State's women sewed up the league title last weekend with a win over the Lady Grizz. The Bobcats host Sac State. The MSU men are at Sac State. They're trying to snap a 2-game losing streak. The MSU men are in 5th place as well at 8-8 in league.
This ESPN Sports Center is presented by Clark Fork Law. Now from the Kurtz Polaris studio, here is Ryan Tutel and Coulter Nuanez.
Well, good afternoon. Good evening. And hour number 2. Great to be with you. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Happy to be on board with all of you all the time. We appreciate you being there and letting us be with you. We are broadcasting from Missoula, Montana, around the state on SWX Television and around the world on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. You can go listen live right now on the stream available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to call us, 329-1899 is that phone number. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. You also, if you would like to, can listen on the podcast. The podcast available wherever you get your podcasts. It's available all the time, and it is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel and Blackfoot Communications. Also, make sure you go listen to Larry Krastoviak, Coach K, the subject of our Grizz Greats Coaching Tree podcast, episode 7, which is out right now as well. You can go listen to that anytime you would like to. Okay, Coulter, here's my question for you. We had Craig Johnson here in the first segment of the show. So now here we are in segment number 4. Do you want to talk about the Sac State-Montana State game right here, or do you want to talk about the best players the Grizz have played against individually?
All the way around.
Okay. Let's start with Montana State then. Montana State, the men are at Sacramento State. This weekend swing, we talked with Danny Sprinkle earlier this week about this, just an absolutely monstrous run for the Bobcats as they are 8-8. They've dropped their last 2, and they go on the road now to Sacramento State and Northern Arizona before finishing at home, of course, against Northern Colorado and Southern Utah. This game right here, right now on this Thursday night for Montana State, I think is as important as there is to any single team in the league for Montana State to win this game. If they win this game, I think that they improve their chances to better than 50-50 to get a bye. If they lose this game, I think their chances to get a bye drop to single digits. I mean, this is one. Sacramento State we know is tougher at home. Well, everybody, but particularly Sacramento State in the nest. But Montana State, this is one you absolutely have to have. You just have to bounce back and find a way to get a win against Sacramento State on the road tonight in order to have a shot and a real luck. I mean, if they do it, I think they have a very real shot at ending up with a bye in Boise 2 weeks from now.
It's a pivotal weekend for Montana State because they just got to alter the trajectory. I mean, this team, I think, has played above their head a lot more often than not this season. But that can all go away if you start struggling, you go away from what you've been doing well. Opponents finally figure out some of the stuff they've been doing. I mean, because make no mistake, Montana State's been getting by with some pretty unique strategies. I mean, they've executed the 1-3-1 very well a lot this year.
Mm-hmm.
But they've also, you don't want to say you got lucky because you make shots or you don't. But if you played Weber 100 times, would they go 2 of 22 from 3 in the second half?
Right.
Against a 1-3-1 zone? I just really don't know if you would. I mean, I watched the Weber game. Granted, Jarek Harding's hurt. You can't do anything about it. That's going to take away from your performance. But you take the wins where you can get them, but did it actually mean that you just completely out-executed somebody and played above them, or did you just beat them at home when they had their best player hurt and they didn't shoot the ball well? Again, you can't take the win off the docket. Montana State earned that victory over Weber State, but there have been several games where they've gotten away with some stuff or where they've gotten wins for as much because of how well they played, but also because of how the other team didn't play well. But that's basketball, and that's league play for sure. I think, though, that this Montana State team, to me, I think Harold Frey, his ankle, that's the key to this whole thing. But I think they have the most variable level of results for the last 4 games of any team that's still in the mix for a bye.
Absolutely.
If they went any of the combos of records that they could go, 4-0, 3-1, 2-2, 1-3, or 0-4, none would surprise me. None.
That's right.
Straight up. Yeah, I mean, if they straight up free fell all the way to 8th or 9th place, wouldn't surprise me. If they played and went 4 for 4 and got the 4 seed, wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, well, if they go 4 for 4, they might do better than that. But here's what's interesting.
Right, because I mean, that's the other thing is we always talk about a team staying where they're at and fighting off the teams below them. But you're right. If they were to Montana State sweeps this weekend and And then they got Southern Utah and Northern Colorado coming to town. If they beat Northern Colorado, then all of a sudden, depending on what UNC did, say they drop one, say UNC was coming off a loss in Missoula, then all of a sudden you could either tie or even overtake UNC, depending on the rest of the results.
The thing here, though, that is interesting to me is this. Montana State, if they beat Sacramento State tonight, by the way, Sacramento State is 7-9 on the year. They go to 9-8. Northern Arizona plays the Grizzlies. We've talked about, Northern Arizona is a pretty good team, but they're certainly not going to be favored in this game if it went the way, the expectation is. Montana wins that game. Northern Arizona drops to 9-9. Montana State's all of a sudden in 4th place. Portland State tonight, though, plays Idaho State. Now, you expect the Vikings to win that game against the Bengals, who have lost something like 13 in a row or something like that, Idaho State. I mean, they were like 3-2, and now they're 3-13. I mean, it's crazy.
But that's the thing that derails when you try to make predictions on paper, though, too, right?
For sure.
Because like Idaho State could derail all of what we're talking about. Because
they would upset the apple cart.
If we're talking about just waiting for the premier matchups to come, waiting for Portland State to play a team that's right next to them in the standings, it's the Idaho State and Idahos of the world where they just sneak up and bite somebody. I mean, why is Eastern Washington not in first place? Because they lost to Idaho at home.
Yeah.
That's the loss that's going to keep them from the number 1 seed if everything else goes chalk.
But nonetheless, I mean, we're here before tip-off. We expect Portland State, right, to find a way, even though if you're going to tell me in the next 4 games of league play, are Idaho State or Idaho going to win a game in the next 4? Absolutely. It seems to me they will, maybe multiple games.
Right.
So who knows who those will be against and what that's going to look like.
Right.
But if Portland State does what they should do, what they need to do, because they are in a race. I mean, it's not like Portland State's not playing for something. They're playing for a lot, and they need a win. They know that. But anyway, they're at 9-8 as well, and all of a sudden it's MSU and Portland State, who both would leapfrog Northern Arizona in one night, and all of a sudden Montana State wakes up, and they're the number 4 team in the Big Sky Conference going into an NAU team that is actually behind them in the standings on Saturday.
Let's play a little game.
Okay.
Trending up, trending down, or staying the same?
Mm-hmm.
Is Montana trending up, trending down, or staying the same at this exact moment?
Maybe very slightly up, probably closer to staying the same, but the same is number 1 in the Big Sky Conference. So, I mean, that's up to me.
But since the 2-game losing streak, entering the Cat Grizz game, I have to recalculate the numbers because they only won by 5 last week. But entering the Cat Grizz game, their 5-game win streak, they'd won by an average of 17 points.
Right.
Granted, they had the basically double up of Weber State, which inflated that stat a little bit, but they'd still won their other 4 by about 14.2 points.
Yeah.
So they're winning handily the last 6, so I would say they're trending up.
Okay, yeah, I mean, sure. When I say I think that saying flatlining, it's because they're just winning. So,
but they have their best player playing his best basketball inside Pridgett. They have their second best player playing his best basketball in Kendall Manuel, and they have their 3 freshmen playing their best basketball. So I think they're definitely trending up. Eastern Washington.
Well, you would say trending down. They had the loss to Idaho. They have not looked as strong, but they also have strung together some wins, man. I mean, they Eastern Washington has now won 3 in a row, and 4 of their last 5, Idaho being the one outlier, after having lost to the Grizzlies. So I would, you say down because it hasn't been pretty. I mean, they squeaked by Portland State. They squeaked by Sacramento. They only beat Sacramento State by a point after having been up like 15 at halftime, and they beat NAU by 10. So there's been moments where they haven't looked as good, but at the end of the day, I mean, they're not losing games, the exception being, as you mentioned, that Idaho game. Maybe I'll say they're staying the same. I would like to say trending down in some ways. We thought that they had a tremendous freshman point guard in Magnuson, and he has not really actually come along over the course of this season. So I don't know.
He's proving to be actually a hindrance in certain ways. He can't shoot the ball.
I'm putting them at flatline, Eastern Washington, just because the results, not what you want, but they are there. Basically.
Well, I mean, they've won 3 in a row, and they won at Portland State, and that's a good win. And they beat NAU, and that's what kept NAU out of breaking into that top 3. So I would agree, staying the same. Okay, Northern Colorado.
Up.
Yep. Portland State.
Up.
Absolutely. They're the team that's trending up the most, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we expected given their schedule, right?
Yeah.
NAU, I think we both could say we're blind to it, right?
Right.
NAU will be on up if they win tonight, and maybe the same or even maybe slightly down after tonight, right?
Right.
Montana State.
Down.
And so much of it's because of Harold Frey's injury, right?
Yeah, it's Harold Frey injury. And here's the thing. They've won the games that they should win, and that's good. You got to do that. They won a game that you weren't sure they should win at Weber State earlier in the season. That's a great win for them. But they also haven't won any of the games that you weren't sure that they should win. They've lost the games to the better teams. So they're
swept by Portland State, swept by Eastern Washington.
Exactly.
Swept by Montana. Haven't played Northern Colorado for a second time.
It's like beating the bad teams is great, but at some point you got to beat the good teams too, and they haven't.
If you want to be a good team, you absolutely do. Okay. Southern Utah, I think we could say, is the opposite of Portland State, right? They're trending. They're the one team with a lot of talent that's trending down.
Yeah.
And then I guess the last one we'll play this game with is Weber State.
Down.
I agree. And I talked to Randy Ray.
Yeah.
I talked to Randy Ray yesterday for a variety of things. Stay tuned, SkylineSportsMT.com as well as BigSkyConf.com, coming out with a huge package of stories, about a dozen stories leading up to the Big Sky tournament about players and trends and all sorts of other things. So you can find all of that to get you ready for Boise. One of the stories about Jarek Harding, and Randy said, I got to give the kid so much credit for how tough he's been this year. But he said, honestly, it's on me. I mismanaged this thing. He said when he broke his foot before the season even started, then he came back and he wasn't quite in the physical condition he needed to be in, but he's so tough and he can go so hard that we rolled with it. Okay, but then when he re-hurt himself and he sprained his ankle against Eastern Washington, Randy said, I should have shut him down. Should have shut him down for 2 to 3 weeks, and he came back in less than a week. And then that led to favoring the ankle, then the shin splints, and then all of a sudden the back's hurt. And so I don't know what they're going to do. He did not tell me what they're going to do. I'm not going to tell the world what they're going to do, even if he did tell me. But to me, it sounded as if they are sort of reconciling their place in the league. They're not going to get the bye, likely.
Of course.
And so, like he said, it doesn't matter if we have the 6 or the 11. If we don't have Jarek Harding, we're not going to win any games in Boise.
Right.
So let's figure out how to have Jarek Harding. So I think they are definitively trending down, but I think they could trend intentionally down for the next 2 weeks if they just swallow it and take it. Because, if Jarek Harding could actually really get back to – I don't think he's ever going to be 100% again this year, but if he could actually get back into the 80, 85%, who wants to play that team in the first round?
No doubt.
Boise?
Yeah,
Nobody.
Absolutely. And they are the one team this season that you go, it looks a lot different if they don't have the injuries that they have. That's just a fact of the matter. It's not just Jarek Harding, although he's front and center on that. And obviously the same is true of Harold Frey. Harold Frey's rolled his ankle in each of the last 2 games he's played in.
Right.
The one on Thursday, significant.
Right.
The one on Saturday looked less so, but also the adrenaline's going. Who knows what happens after the game? Now, he's had 5 days, so hopefully, he's good and feeling good. But you need to play a couple of games where you just have no problems with the foot. So in terms of not another tweak. Not another thing. And that's so hard to do, especially as a point guard who's cutting so much, doing all the things that he's doing, has so much demand in terms of his usage rate and all of that sort of thing.
Well, and that's the issue with the fact that the Cats have been playing above their heads so much this year, too, is that there's literally not a game in the league this year that Montana State doesn't need to bring their best to win. That's the issue. Like, you can't just go – Sac State is in – 9th place right now. But you can't just go in there and have Harold Frey play 24 minutes and give him a whole bunch of time off.
Yeah.
He's got to play 35 minutes for you to win. Even if you're playing Idaho or Idaho State, he just has to. And that's just the state that they're in. And it's a testament to him, certainly, and why I think he's a first-team All-League player. Mm-hmm. But you can't just Montana State women, for example, the last couple of weeks, they've taken a ton of minutes off of Fallon Freegee and Oleana Squires because they're rolling people. And so those girls, they're getting their 15 to 18 points in 22 minutes, and they're chilling, hanging out, resting up on the bench, swinging the towel because they have so much depth and they've been able to get out in front of people so much, and that's just not been the case for Montana State. So Montana State's in a different position than Weber. Weber can wave the white flag and say, hey, we're just going to toss it in, get ready for Boise. The Cats can't, with the state of their team, how many new players they have, and the fact they have a new head coach, I think mentally they cannot afford to free fall into Boise. So I think it physically, Harold Freig's going to have to just grit it out and go.
Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. 2 for 1 here in the top of the hour segment that we got for you. We will be talking a little bit about Tom Brady. Where could he go? As more and more reports coming out that he will enter free agency and will not return to the New England Patriots. Say it ain't so. But we will.
Before we talk about this Grizz best players,
Yes.
I got one question for you about tonight.
Yes.
We're going to Dahlberg Arena.
We are.
I wrote in the Sports Center that the biggest game in the league that involves the Montana schools is the Lady Grizz versus NAU.
Mm-hmm.
I know that NAU men are in fourth place and they're playing the first place Grizz. It's certainly a big game. I know because of the status of Montana State's season right now, every game they have remaining is a big game. But I think this one's the biggest game because of a lot of exterior factors as well. I think that just from a mental perspective, Northern Arizona women's basketball has made it to the NCAA tournament one time in the history of their program.
Yeah.
If you were to have me do a power rankings of jobs in the league, I would tell you that Northern Arizona and Southern Utah's women's programs are dead last in Big Sky basketball jobs, men's and women's. They have no tradition, no recruiting advantages, no resources.
Wait, I thought you told me that Northern Arizona's men's was a potential.
No, they're women.
Okay, I thought you said men's and
no.
men's,
Southern Utah's women and Northern Arizona's women. Those are the bottom of the barrel in the Big Sky
for
in terms
men's
of,
or women's. I got you. I thought you were
22 jobs.
I got you.
Number 21 and 22 are those two jobs.
Okay, I got.
But right now, those two teams, Northern Arizona is alone in second in the Big Sky Conference, and Southern Utah is tied with Montana for fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Testament to Lori Payne and Tracy Saunders, respectively, as coaches. But that's a real factor to me with NAU coming to Missoula. Lori Payne was on the show on Tuesday. If you missed it, you can check it out on the podcast, 1029ESPN.com. Well, Lori Payne's from Havre, Montana. She said her introduction to women's basketball and big-time women's basketball was following and watching the Lady Grizz when she was growing up. I think it would give her great pleasure to bring her team to Missoula, Montana, and post a win and show, her home state that
what
you actually can get it rolling at NAU. And I think it's striking as well that Lori Payne has NAU rolling. I mean, they're alone in second in year 3. And when you compare it and overlay that with Montana in year 4 under Shannon Swain, it doesn't look good for the Lady Grizz in general. That said, if Montana can win the game tonight, that's a huge win for the Lady Grizz.
No doubt.
It could propel them into having a good weekend because I think that the most winnable game in the last 4 for the Lady Grizz is Saturday against Sac State. Senior night for multiple seniors on the team, and Sac State's just not very good this year. So a 2-0 gives you a ton of momentum going into the weekend and just gives you some breathing room in terms of getting that top 5 seed, whereas a loss, now mentally you're swirling. Now you've lost a couple in a row. Even if you do get the senior night, now you have a tough road trip to finish. Now it puts more pressure on you, too, when you talk about that season finale in Cedar City on Friday. So, I mean, to you, how do you see this game, and what are your thoughts on just the way that this game could affect not only the standings, but just the mentality of the Lady Grizz, considering they're playing a team that nobody expected to be in the position they're in?
It's everything you said I agree with completely. I mean, it's absolutely gigantic for the Lady Grizz tonight. They're 9-7. Idaho, they are tied, like you said, with Southern Utah for the 5th spot. They're 2 games up on Northern Colorado, but they're also a game and a half behind, both of them in Southern Utah, a game and a half behind Idaho State and 2 games behind Idaho. So there are basically 2 teams that are playing for 1 bye right now in that 5th spot, barring, something unforeseen. And so I don't know what Southern Utah's schedule is. I mean, I know that they're playing
they got the Montana
schools in the last week of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But in any case, to win tonight, to go to 10-7, and then if you can win again against Sacramento State and get to 11 wins, that is absolutely crucial to what they're doing. Because even if they beat Sacramento State a loss tonight, and you're at 10-8. And who knows what Southern Utah has to do. We talked about this already, that Southern Utah against Montana on the last game of the regular season in women's basketball.
Southern Utah is
the game of the year.
Eastern Washington tonight, so that'll be a win.
Okay.
They're at Idaho Saturday, so that's probably not a win. Could be, but probably not.
It's a big game, but
then they got Montana State coming to their place on Wednesday.
Loss.
So now you're 1-2. Basically, the fact of the matter is that the Lady Grizz and Southern Utah each have 1 game remaining that they absolutely should win. and 3 that they might and probably won't, except for the one against each other. So I guess 2 that they probably won't each. So the most likely, if you're chalking it up on paper, is 1 and 2 for each squad going into that finale. But like you're saying, if you could steal 2, puts way less pressure on that last game.
And also, Montana was in a position to beat Montana State in Missoula, and it let it slip away. I mean, it just went sideways on them. But Montana State, the definitive number 1 team in this Big Sky Conference, and they had them dead to rights in a lot of respects, and then ended up losing the game in overtime. But then they went and got pounded in Bozeman.
Yeah, I mean, it was teach tape. It was an offensive clinic by Montana State.
Like this idea that, hey, you know what? We're a good team. When we play well, we're as good as there is in the conference.
The other part is that they play so well at home, too. You cannot afford to lose at home. That's the other mental part I'm talking about.
That's right. And so, but I think there's like this there was a belief that, hey, you know, we're a good team, and when we put it all together, we can be the best team in the Big Sky Conference. And then I think some of that confidence is waning right now. And now here you are playing the number 2 team in the Big Sky Conference at home, and it's a big game with 4 games remaining, and there's an opportunity to win or, you know, regardless of outcome, not regardless of outcome, in addition to whatever the outcome is, there's a mental reality to this, where if you win, you gain such a huge confidence factor that you beat the number 2 team in the Big Sky Conference. You got a game that you had to have to win. You did it in front of your home crowd, the whole thing. Whereas if you lose this game, and now it's been 3 in a row, and it's been demoralizing, and Montana State's trimming the nets at your expense, you know, over the weekend, that I don't know how and where you recover for this. And I think in that sense that this becomes a very pivotal game, even maybe more than the actual win or loss that results of it. I think this is a trajectory-making game for the Lady Grizz.
No question. And what has this group proven? The one thing they've proven is that they can play above their heads and beat the best teams in the league on their home floor. Mm-hmm. They've done it for, I mean, they used to not be playing above their heads. They used to just beat everybody on their home floor. But even those last couple of years where they've struggled, like last year, the only top team in the league that didn't beat on their home floor was the Cats. Mm-hmm. They beat Idaho. They beat Idaho State. They beat Portland State. They beat Northern Colorado on their home floor. So if you can't beat NAU, I just think it's a game that could mean a lot more than just one game. Win or lose or draw, they'll say it's just one game. I just think that that's not true. We're going to a game tonight that is more than just one game. It is a game that could have ramifications throughout the rest of the season and throughout the status of the program.
Mildenberger Motors in Hamilton has the best selection and best prices of new and used GMC, Chevrolet, Cadillac, and Buick. Mildenberger Motors, family-owned for 65 years. Where's Tom Brady going? I'll tell you where. Northern Arizona. No, not really. How about Southern Nevada next?
At Opportunity Bank of Montana, we know that checking accounts are not one size fits all. Let us introduce you to Opportunity Bank's full suite of checking account products, including personal and business options with no minimum balance and no monthly service fee. Or if earning cash back suits you, Opportunity Reward Checking may be the perfect fit. Need to earn interest? We have those options too. Call or come into Opportunity Bank for a checking account that fits you. Opportunity Bank of Montana, serving Montanans since 1922. Member FDIC.
Don't enter the madness without the knowledge you need. When it comes to filling out NCAA tournament brackets, you can rely on luck, or you can get yourself ready to win the Tutela Nuanez Bracket Challenge by watching the stretch run of the regular season and every conference tournament at Paradise Falls. Come down to Paradise Falls to watch every college basketball game you need to prepare for the tournament, and be sure to enter the Tutela Nuanez Bracket Challenge with your chance to win $400 in free food and drinks from Paradise Falls. Leap into March Madness in Paradise at Paradise Falls.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassles for you so you can just focus on getting better.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. The Advocates are on your side.
Coulter, gracious mercy, and thank the heavens, it is time once again for the NC2A men's basketball tournament. It is here, and you and I are back again with the Tutel and Nuanez Bracket Challenge.
We hook people up all over Missoula all the time, but this will be an outstanding contest with entries from all over and your chance to win a variety of great prizes, including a $250 tab at Paradise Falls or $250 worth of equipment from Aspen Sound.
That's right. We got great prize packages for first, second, and third place. Selection Sunday is March 15th, and then you got to get your entries in between then and the start of the tournament on Thursday, the morning of the 19th. Coulter, I'm floating with anticipation and excitement, and of course, you can compare your brackets to Coulter's and mine and try and beat the dopes on the radio. Won't that be satisfying?
More than $1,000 worth of gifts we'll be giving to you, so stay tuned to Tutel and Nuanez 4 to 6 p.m. each weekday for details on the ESPN Missoula Bracket Challenge, brought to you in part by Paradise Falls and Aspen Sound.
Join the Bitterroot Water Forum for the 2020 International Fly Fishing Film Festival Thursday, March 5th at the Bedford Building in Hamilton at 7 p.m. Doors open at 6. Festival showcases films from all corners of the globe, highlighting the passion and culture of fly fishing. Tickets are available at the Bitterroot Water Forum office, at the Freestone Fly Shop, and the Bitterroot Brewery. $13 in advance, $15 at the door, door prizes, and a raffle to win a float trip for two.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. A pivotal weekend for Montana's Big Sky Conference schools as they commence tonight with key matchups across the West for Montana and Montana State's men's and women's basketball teams. The biggest game of the evening will tip at 7 o'clock tonight. It's not just big because Coulter and I will be there. It's actually big because what's going to happen. Dahlberg Arena in Missoula, the Lady Grids are looking to snap a 2-game skid against Northern Arizona, who is the surprise team in the Big Sky this year, under the direction of Havre native Lori Payne. NAU enters Thursday's matchup with a 12-5 record in league play and sit alone in second place in the conference standings with 4 games remaining. Montana is at 9-7 and tied with Southern Utah for 5th place. The top 5 finishers in the regular season earn a bye at the Big Sky tournament in Boise the second week of March.
University of Montana men will look to stay atop the Big Sky as they play in Flagstaff against NAU as well. The Grizz dispatched the Jacks 79-71 in Missoula 61 days ago. It's the second longest streak, or I guess stretch, between return matchups in the league. The Grizz are atop Eastern Washington, Northern Colorado for first place, 1 game up for the league lead. And under first-year head coach Shane Burkhardt, Lumberjacks 9-7 and alone in 4th place.
Montana State's women sewed up the league title last weekend with a win over the Lady Grizz. They host Sac State tonight. The MSU men, meanwhile, are at Sacramento State trying to snap a 2-game skid. They are in 5th place in the conference at 8-8. Thought that one was going in. Shooting buckets. Studio. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. SWX Montana Television, broadcasting around the world on the internet. Check out the YouTube channel, Tutel and Nuanez YouTube channel, available, on YouTube. Search it out. Check it out. Are we going to be able to take the gift from your brother, this sweet basketball hoop, to our new studio?
Sure.
Boys and girls, I mean, we haven't really announced it. We don't really know exactly what to announce, but we are getting a new studio. We're very excited about it.
I live in a world where I believe it when I see it.
Yeah. You're a very good, post Enlightenment era scientist.
That's right. I will be moved into the studio approximately 6 months after the rest of you.
The difference is I only believe things I don't see.
That's why you're so happy.
That's right. That's right.
Apparently, the trail's been telling the whole world that we're moving, so we're moving, and we're going to have a fancy new studio, and apparently that'll make us look better on TV.
No. I mean, what makes us look better is the way that we look.
Speak for yourself.
What will improve is perhaps camera angles, a little bit of backing, and maybe I'll be in a position where I can make a shot on this.
See, this is the base difference between me and you.
All right.
I'm just trying to derail this because this is the last thing in the world I want to talk about.
You know, you are so bitter. Maybe this is why you're so angry, is because you only believe things you can see. Let's think about things that we can't see, like Tom Brady's future.
The last thing I care about is Tom Brady.
No one cares if you care. They want to care what you think.
Nothing
You do the segment.
Great, I will. David, you said we should talk.
Go home.
That's right.
I'm just really hot. The studio's hot. I hope we have some AC.
Yeah, go home. Turn the AC on in your car on your way home.
The Jeff Darlington went on Get Up this morning, NFL insider for ESPN, and said he would be, quote, stunned if Tom Brady returned to New England. He then tweeted out, R.I.P. my mentions. I know you'll hate me. I know you'll tell me I'm an idiot, and I understand why it's so hard for all of us, myself included, to start accepting this likelihood. Hey, there's still a chance, but the reality is Brady's looking forward to free agency. The other part of this is that evidently, I think this is a part of the Boston Globe, the New England Patriots have yet to reach out to Tom Brady. Like, it's not even a matter of, like, they haven't come to an agreement or whatever. Like, they haven't spoken, and generally that's on the side of the team. And by the way, in this case, if I'm not mistaken, the team is who? William Belichick. So
that's from Karen Gurgi. I don't know how to say her last name.
Hey, we finally got it. We finally got David to mess one up. From the Boston Herald? Okay, not the Globe, the Herald. Okay, very good. But that is significant. So, David, I know you got a list of options. Let's say Tom Brady doesn't go back to New England. Where do we have some landing spots here, David?
Well, it's been rumored for a few weeks now that he's going to end up in Vegas with Gruden. So you got to throw out Vegas, the LA Chargers. There's a small chance that he could succeed Jacoby Brissett in Indianapolis. There's a rumor floating around, mostly on the internet. I've not seen anybody reputable actually talk about it, but Antonio Brown and Tom Brady link up in Tampa with Bruce Arians. One last run for the Super Bowl. Doesn't seem very likely. Two other totally wild card options, but they could use a quarterback, it seems, are the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos.
Well, here's where I'm at. I think Carolina, is more likely than either Tampa or Indy.
Who did they hire as their coach?
Carolina hired Baylor, formerly at Baylor, Matt Rule.
Right.
Yeah.
So random.
But Denver, Drew Lock was hurt, but when he played, I think they really liked Drew Lock in Denver, at least initially. Now, does that mean you wouldn't bring in Tom Brady potentially? Not necessarily, but I think they're okay. This is not anything that is going to shock the world here, okay? I'm not going to get on here and try and start, making a fool of myself by saying things that I don't think are true. But the Oakland situation, which is now the Vegas situation, makes all the sense in the world to me. The L.A. Chargers does too. I think, doesn't Tom and Giselle have a place in L.A.? Everybody, right, has a place in L.A. or something like that?
Brentwood, yeah.
Okay. So
shout out OJ.
You get that sort of,
shout
thing.
Out LeBron.
Okay. Shout out Brentwood. But they, so I can get that.
Been to Brentwood?
I don't know that I have. I've been to Los Angeles, so I just count that I've been everywhere.
Okay.
Okay. The Chargers need a quarterback, obviously, and they have a pretty good team. I gotta think.
Believe in Tyrod Taylor?
Well, I believe more in Tom Brady. Let's put it like that. I believe more in Tom Brady.
One of those two guys led Buffalo to the playoffs. Not very many people can say that.
That is
an excellent point. I actually have always liked Tyrod.
I like. Isn't it? Didn't we move to Tyrod? Or something like that, Tyrod Taylor.
Oh yeah, there's a thing. Maybe it was T-Rod.
Yeah, but anyway,
none of his teammates even knew how to say his name.
I like him too, but let's just think about situation, because I got to believe that Tom Brady doesn't just want to go to Tampa to sit in the sun and get his body wrecked and lose 14 games in his last season as a pro. Just so he can be at a place with a nice commute or whatever it is. So I don't think he's like, the Chargers have a pretty good team. I have no idea what his relationship is, with the coaches and the organization. Are they not still playing in StubHub Stadium, in a soccer stadium that holds 11 people?
No, they'll be in the new stadium this year.
This year?
Yeah.
Are you 100% sure about that, David?
100% positive.
I'm still maintaining a healthy incredulity on that statement. I thought they were behind a year and that it was going to. So you're telling me that Vegas and Los Angeles are both opening their new stadiums right now this year?
July 25th, 2020 for SoFi Stadium.
What is SoFi?
You don't know what SoFi is?
I mean, I've seen the thing.
As somebody who's got to pay back student loans, I'm all too familiar with SoFi.
So SoFi is like a debt consolidation agency. So
we have a lot of debt in this world when they're naming a $5 billion stadium.
I mean, haven't you been watching the presidential debates? That's like half of what it's about.
No. That's the answer to that question.
You're not into comedy?
The Vegas Raiders is, to me, the one that makes the most sense. Because, first of all, it feels like the Gruden-Carr thing is like Gruden took Carr and made the most of it as best as he could. And I have always thought that Derek Carr was a little bit underappreciated, and I still feel that way. I think that he's fought through.
You're wrong.
No. I know you both hate this, but he had, okay, I know, his one really good year in like his second or third year, whatever it was.
They went 12-4 with Jack Del Rio as the coach.
And then broke his leg in the second to last game of the season.
Yep.
And he has had significant injuries that not a lot of people have necessarily known about from that point forward. He was healthy, probably as healthy as he's been last season, and put up pretty good numbers, and they were a much improved team with much better talent around him. And so he has been asked to make lemonade with lemons by and large, given what he has not had to work with outside of who went to Dallas?
Dak Prescott?
No, the wide receiver.
Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper,
right.
Thank you. But this, he's finally got a running back who's really good, and they get some weapons in there, and he's an okay quarterback. But I also think that Gruden is kind of over it as well, and who wouldn't love to have Tom Brady come put on some sunglasses and go to this big new stadium on the Strip?
That's the point with the Raiders, I think, that is the essential one. Rather than debating Derek Carr, whether this current version of Derek Carr is better than this current version of Tom Brady, I think more it's just that I think that all the speculation and all the noise coming out of the Raiders organization is that John Gruden just wants to move on from Derek Carr. If that's the case, then you have to do it regardless of what the situation is. I think that so I actually don't hate talking about where Tom Brady is going to go if, in fact, he's leaving. The thing I hate is just that tweet is pathetic from the reporter. Like, it hurts me as much as it hurts you. When Tom Brady is actually a free agent, I'll talk about Tom Brady where he's going to go all day. It just is annoying when it might happen, but it's just the Patriots pulling the strings. But regardless, we're already into the speculation machine.
But here's the thing. The reason that this is significant is Jeff Darlington isn't just some
I understand.
Some
I
dude.
know who he is.
This is a guy who is embedded in New England. I mean, this is to what he is to New England Patriot football what Adam Schefter is to the NFL. I mean, this is a guy who does not get on TV, national TV, and say stuff like this without having a very good feeling for it at whatever level that is.
I understand.
So that's why it's substantive. All right.
I understand.
For what it's worth, this is what Gruden told some reporters at the Combine today about Carr. I really think Derek is a heck of a player, and I got a lot of respect for what he has done with some tough circumstances. So I'm not going to answer every media rumor out there. I just can't do it. I'm just going to listen to my serious rock and roll classic vinyl station and keep working. But I love what Derek Carr did, love what he brings to our team, and anxious to continue to build around it.
Okay. Vinyl. Okay. Like it.
Here's what I want to talk about. I think that it's where there's smoke, there's fire when it comes to the hearsay and rumors between a split of a quarterback and a coach.
Yeah.
It was not surprising whatsoever when Mike McCarthy got fired by Green Bay.
Right.
Regardless of what John Gruden says today, tomorrow, in the next month. As soon as the rumor emerges that John Gruden wants to move out from Derek Carr, those sorts of rumors I believe as true almost always.
Talk to me at the draft when the Raiders use a first or second round pick on a quarterback.
So, then this list of teams that we have here, I want to know this. Last year, Tom Brady had no weapons in New England, right?
Yeah.
Antonio Brown went off the rails. He's in the loony bin. Josh Gordon fails a drug test. Who knows what happened to Michelle? Who knows? I mean, James White takes a step back. Gronk retires.
Yeah.
He's got nobody to throw to. That said, I think that most would agree he also took a step back physically. Right? I mean, he's not quite as good as the quarterback he once
accept
was.
that. It's not the cliff that everybody was talking about, but it was not as good of Tom. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I think the real analysis comes down to then who is Tom Brady actually still better than? Where can he go and win? We're talking about Carolina, they have nothing. So that's an obvious fit, even if it's not a good fit in terms of the staff or the town or whatever. Cam Newton's out, and so they don't have anybody. So that's a fine fit. Is Tom Brady better than Jacoby Brissett right now?
Yes.
Would you take that risk?
Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Especially because...
Would you, David?
Absolutely.
And I also think that's the best situation on here because Indianapolis drafted all these offensive linemen to protect Andrew Luck, and then he left him out to dry.
Yeah.
But you could also protect Tom Brady, and he has a good running back in Marlon Mack. So that actually, from a football standpoint, might be the best one on the list. But there's no quarterback in for the Chargers. So that's an open door, but not a good situation. My question for you, though, is twofold. And Derek Carr's out in Oakland, so there's an open door, too, there.
If we think that's going to happen. Yeah. Yep.
Well, my question for you is would you take Tom Brady over Drew Lock, second-year guy, and would you take Tom Brady over Jameis Winston?
I'll tell you both of those next. In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call. 406-640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree Podcast, Episode 7 is out now, featuring a University of Montana legend, Larry Krystowiak. Coulter, Coach Krystowiak had one of the great playing careers at the University of Montana and then returned to his alma mater to be the head coach for 2 seasons in 04 and 05 and 05 and 06, went to the NC2A tournament both seasons, and in his second and final season at UM, they became the last team in the Big Sky Conference to win an NC2A tournament game.
We call this the Grizz Greats, and he is one of the greatest Grizz of them all. Larry Krystowiak, an in-state product who went to high school in Missoula, was the only 3-time MVP in the history of Montana basketball and the only player to ever score 2,000 points and grab 1,000 rebounds in his decorated career. A phenomenal career for Larry Krystowiak that continues to this day at the University of Utah.
Just search Grizz Greats wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and enjoy the entire series of Grizz Greats, available thanks to Blackfoot Communications, Stockman's Bar, and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate.
The Missoulian Angler would like to announce a fundraiser on Saturday, April 4th at 4 p.m. for Trout Unlimited's Upper Clark Fork restoration projects, and they're asking you to help launch their first annual Clark Fork Squala Fest with a bang. The event at the Missoulian Angler Fly Shop is dedicated to help improve fish populations and habitat in the Upper Clark Fork River watershed. Trout Unlimited's plan is a multi-pronged program that focuses on protecting and restoring cold, clean water and habitat to the river and its tributaries. Fish on, Montana.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Wisconsin is up 43-33 on Michigan at the half. ESPN2 if you're looking for it. Go Badgers. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Great to be with you. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. Tutel Nuanez podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts. Let's go search us out on your favorite podcasting platforms. It's available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel and by Blackfoot Communications. And also, you can check out Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree podcast, available everywhere. Search Grizz Greats, episode 7 with Larry Kristoviak out right now as well. You can go listen to that. The question when we went to break, if Tom Brady does indeed go into free agency, if you had the choice to have Tom Brady in Tampa, replacing Jameis Winston, or in Denver, replacing Drew Lock, would you take him in either situation? My answer to that question, Coulter? No, I would not in either case.
Wow. What about Drew Lock?
The youth and the contract and the potential. Like we saw a guy who has a little bit of an it factor and some talent and won a couple of games. He's a rookie. He's got a long ways to go. He's not better. Don't kid me. I'm not answering about who's better. Right. He's not close to Drew to Tom Brady. Right now, or Drew Brees for that matter.
But he's also not a prodigious young quarterback talent. Obviously, like Patrick Mahomes, but even like, I'm trying to think of a better example than that.
Well, we don't know actually that. Like he looked really good for what he is, and you can build around him. And how important are those rookie contracts right now, man, proven to be? I mean, we're seeing it, right? So I just don't think that you then replace that guy from a franchise look at this for the $30 million a year or whatever that it's going to cost to get Tom Brady in. And for how long? 2 years? 3 at the most? And now you're right back to square one. So, and I don't think they're in a position like if it was a deal like Peyton Manning, when you go and get Peyton Manning because you know you are ready to win a Super Bowl now, then yes. But right now, I think you got to build in Denver. In Tampa, I'd be closer to doing it in Tampa for sure. Because Jameis Winston, 30-30, tough to win games. Like that's a lot of touchdowns. It's a heck of a lot of interceptions though. So I don't think that I could do it. But again, all of this is in the scope of, I'm thinking 2 years at most is what you got with Tom Brady. So I think if you could get Tom Brady and draft a kid and draft a guy right now, that's like your best case scenario, which Absolutely. Oakland can do.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at. Here's my question to you, okay? Because I don't think it matters about who's quarterback in the team all that much. You know what I think matters?
What?
Who's coaching the team? Mm-hmm. This is Tom Dagnab Brady we're talking about here.
Right.
You think he's going to go to Carolina and play for a rookie head coach and Matt Rhule?
College coach?
Forget it.
No.
Forget it. Okay? I think Frank Reich, is the sort of guy. But Gruden is the guy.
What about Arians?
For sure, Arians is a coach that he would go and play for. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think
how would that work?
I don't think he's would he go play for Anthony Lynn in Los Angeles?
But Brady has never really had like that. There's guys like Gruden and Holmgren and Arians that are quarterback whisperers. They can take the talented guy and make him even better. Tom Brady's just had his little lackey Josh McDaniels for so long. Like, is Brady actually going to take anybody's advice or coaching at this point?
I think one of the things that Tom Brady has done probably better than anybody gives him credit for is take coaching. Like, what does he always say? They coach, I play. He doesn't audible, right? He does, but you know what I'm saying? He's not going up there doing the Peyton Manning coach on the field thing.
So tell me this. The reason Tom Brady's had so much success in his career is because of the continuity that he's been able to enjoy. And when there's been chaos in New England, when there's been media chaos, they thrive off of it. When there's been actual, like your best receiver has a mental breakdown and then is all of a sudden out of the league chaos, they haven't been that great comparatively. But don't you feel like Tom Brady is risking a ton by leaving New England just in terms of his legacy? If he got into a situation, say he goes to Oakland and then subsequently Las Vegas, and him and John Gruden just butt heads.
Yeah.
It's such a bad look for his already polarizing reputation.
Let me ask you this. What's the legacy of Brett Favre? And what's the legacy of Joe Montana?
Yeah. I'm not old enough.
But those two guys...
You guys were old enough to know. Does that really impact your viewing of Joe Montana?
I think it but the difference is that those guys are such lovable characters.
And Tom Brady's not?
I think Tom Brady's the most hateable person in the league.
But every woman in America loves Tom Brady.
No, that's not true.
Not Carolyn.
Not
You'll hear
Carolyn,
about that
not
tomorrow.
either of our mothers.
But here's the thing. Regardless of all that, the other thing that's this is his legacy is cemented, man. It's fait accompli, man.
It is. I guess the Brett Favre and Joe Montana both, though, were so lovable and so beloved at the same time. The self-fulfilling prophecy of the endless string of retirements and endless falling on his face of Brett Favre.
He didn't fall on his face. I mean, he went to an NFC
No,
championship
I understand,
right?
but he also ended his career with a pick. But it's all part of the great.
Tom Brady.
It's all part of the romantic tragedy.
I thought you were talking about the picks on the cell phone.
It's all part of the romantic tragedy that is Brett Favre, though, right? Brett Favre couldn't have hurt his legacy because Brett Favre was honest and an open human from start to finish, and he talked all about his addiction and all this stuff. So there was really nothing that could hurt Brett Favre, whereas Tom Brady is this superior being who has this regimen to make him never age and actually be a better athlete when he's 40 than when he's 20. All I'm saying is it's not about tarnishing. You can never take away six Super Bowl rings. You can never take away the title of the greatest winner in the history of quarterbacking in the NFL. You can't take it away.
Yeah.
But you could have like a Willie Mays with the Mets situation or a Michael Jordan with the Wizards where you give people a piece of your invincibility and take it away because you then look like a human instead of a superhero.
I understand that, but who's the greatest basketball player to ever walk the face of the earth?
Wilt Chamberlain.
Michael Jordan is the answer to the question, and it's not impacted by what he did with the Washington
That's a bad
Wizards.
example, but you know what I'm saying. There's been a lot of guys that went to the next stop, and it did tarnish their legacy only because, not their legacy, it tarnished the overall memory of them.
I don't think so. I don't think it did. I don't think it has broadly.
I'm going to make a list.
Okay.
Come back tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Boys and girls.
I'll read a list of 10,000 names.
We'll continue this tomorrow.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Alignment and Brakes and Shocks and Wheels and Tires. Some tire places don't offer all that, but we do to help keep you safe. It's our Les Schwab Founders Celebration. Get $50 off an alignment. That's nearly half off regular price when you purchase 4 Reputation or Open Range AT tires all month long. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1952. Limited time offer while supplies last. Cannot be combined with other offers. Details at leschwab.com.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassles for you so you can just focus on getting better.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. The Advocates are on your side.
decide.
Here at Florence Coffee, we're celebrating leap year with you this Saturday, February 29th. When you preload $20 or more on your Florence Coffee mobile app, you will leap up 29%. Load $100 and you'll get $29 free. Do it from anywhere. Download the Floco app, top up, and the deal is yours. Stop by any Florence Coffee location and we'll also leap you up a size this Saturday only.
Florence Coffee Company.
Grizz Greats, the Coaching Tree Podcast, Episode 7 is out now, featuring a University of Montana legend, Larry Krystowiak. Coulter, Coach Krystowiak had one of the great playing careers at the University of Montana and then returned to his alma mater to be the head coach for 2 seasons in 04 and 05 and 05 and 06, went to the NC2A tournament both seasons, and in his second and final season at UM, they became the last team in the Big Sky Conference to win an NC2A tournament game.
We call this the Grizz Greats, and he is one of the greatest Grizz of them all. Larry Krystowiak, an in-state product who went to high school in Missoula, was the only 3-time MVP in the history of Montana basketball and the only player to ever score 2,000 points